Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition show. My name is James Lim Overton, and I'm here with co-host Thomas the Colonel Chapman, and Leah should be joining us soon. Hopefully, she'll join us soon. And Colonel, how you doing? I know you've been kind of under the weather lately, and you're braving it out for a little while here. So
Yes.
I understand it's hard to talk, and that's what you love to do.
Yes. It's hurting me. But while I got the mic here, let me get my little thing off my chest. That
Okay.
early voting is here, and that we need to go to the polls, because if we allow the Confederate Party to take over either the Senate or the House, or they already own the House, you are going to see drastic changes in the state and Commonwealth of Virginia. And you could already see some of the dirty tricks that they're pulling. The running of Don Scott, they've pulled one of the racist tropes by calling back and saying he's beating his daughter. If you've seen the commercials.
Well, that was for Clinton Jenkins.
Yeah, yes, Clinton Jenkins. And so that is one of the thing is like trying to say that all Black men are like that. So we need to go to the polls and stop them from taking over this government. And so I just get the idea. Go to the polls and represent yourselves. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Colonel. Appreciate that. Even with your gravelly voice, you still come in and give us that political commentary, which is necessary for people to hear. And just make sure you get out there. Early voting is going on now, and get out there and just make sure you make an educated choice.
Yes.
For who you want to do, and just think about who you're putting in office, think about what your interests are, and check their records and see if they've been voting your interests, or their platform involves your interests. So just make an educated choice when you go out there to vote. Start voting now. But anyway, we have special guests with us, and look like Dr. Bracy went off there for a little while, but I guess he'll come back on. Lost the connection, but we do have special guests here this evening. School Board Chair, Portsmouth School Board Chair, Dr. Cardell Patillo, and the Portsmouth School Superintendent, Dr. Elie Bracy III. They are here. How you doing, gentlemen? And hopefully Dr. Bracy will be back. But Cardell, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, I think he's having some internet connection issues.
Yes. We appreciate you coming in, and hopefully he'll come back in. But it looks like he's coming back in now. So, okay, Dr. Bracy, thanks for coming back. Anyway, there's Dr. Bracy. He's the superintendent, Portsmouth School Superintendent, and he's joining us with the Portsmouth School Board Chair, Dr. Cardell Patillo. And they're here. They made an announcement earlier on social media, and it's out there. So we wanted to have them on, and they graciously agreed to come on and talk about the proposal they have. And it's been something that's been talked about, I think you mentioned, for about 10 years, maybe longer than that. Something that's necessary, and something I think a lot of the school systems are looking at. And we had it here at one time, but we need it back again because, well, I'll let you explain what's going on. Either Cardell or Superintendent Bracy.
Okay, you want me to go first, Dr. Patillo?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, I will say, this is going on year 9 for me here in the school division, and I know when I first came into the division, this was one of the things that I heard a lot from just community members, former teachers that was at IC Norcom, and they came to me and they were talking about, we have to bring back of course, during that time, it was vocational ed, which, now we refer to as career technical education, CTE. And they wanted to see that come back because it was something that, all students could participate in. And even those that wanted to have a trade and not necessarily go from high school to college, if they wanted to have a certified trade, then the opportunity was there for them. So this is something that I know we've talked about during my tenure, trying to bring it into fruition. And finally, I think we have a great opportunity here in front of us to be able to share that with the community. I'm excited about it because it took a lot of planning to make this happen. My team worked effortlessly to try to get this in. And I think with what we have in place, I think everybody will be pleased with it when we start looking at the different programs that we have in place. So I won't steal all the thunder. I'll let Dr. Patillo share a little bit of the highlights as well.
Yes, sir. You covered it well. For as far as I can remember, before my tenure started on the school board, CTE was an area of concern within the community, making sure that all of our young people had opportunities. Come say about maybe 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, it shifted from career technical education to being college ready. And we had to realize that all of our students are not going to college. They don't desire to go to college. And not only that, you want to provide an equitable opportunity for all students to take part in the CTE programs. What we currently have is a partnership with TCC. And with that, there are entrance exam requirements and other requirements for students to be able to get into those programs. And so many of our students, as you know, are not at that level where they can actually get into those programs at TCC. So they're left without a trade. By having all of these programs in-house, we're able to provide these opportunities for every student that desires to have them. And that's very important to Dr. Bracy, his team, and to every member on the school board. And I will give credit to the entire school board because they all had a desire to make this happen. And one thing I will say, we all have our favorite causes and things that we want to see happen, but we all want CTE to happen. So we got together, put our minds together. We toured different facilities, not just in the Hampton Roads area, outside the Hampton Roads area, to see what we could do to possibly bring those things in-house to Portsmouth. So I have to say a special thank you to all of our school board members who are currently on the board and our past board members as well, because it started way before us. We're glad that we're able to bring this opportunity finally to Portsmouth.
Yeah, and I think many people in the community, as well as city council members that ran on their platform, was part of the, fully funding the schools and bringing back some sort of industrial education. And explain how this is going to be funded to the people that want to know that. I think it's kind of unique how it's going to be funded. So explain that.
Okay. Well, right now we've been working with an architect to look at all of the programs that we're looking at bringing into the facility. And just so that we're looking at the old DAC facility. And with that, we've had the architect go in and take a look based on our programming needs. And right now we have like an estimated $12 to $13 million that they're saying that it may take to retrofit that building to be able to house the programs that we want. Now, what has happened, we have, of course, end of year funds. Each year we get money from the state, federal, as well as the city to complete our budget. And at the end of the year, that's unspent, we must submit back to the city council. And if we have special projects or anything, we would always send a memo asking for a reversion of those funds back to us for specific projects. So that's what we did this year. This year we had estimated $11 million unspent, and I know that sounds like a lot of money, but we're all dealing with a national teacher shortage, national staff shortage. So the majority of those funds come from not being able to hire all of the teachers that we have allocated for our schools. So when you don't fill those vacancies, you have those dollars that are sitting there. And one of the things that that I've always tried to be cognizant of, and that is the funds. I don't want to just go out and just spend money just to say that we've spent it all. We've gone back and forth with some councils, not saying this one, whereas that we get sort of get our hands slapped for not spending all of the money. It's if you really wanted to spend money just frivolously, yeah, we could do that. We could spend all the money that they give us, but we try to be good stewards of the dollars, and we want to make sure that the community is aware of that. But this year, with the $9 million, the $11 million that's unspent, we're asking for 9 million of that to go into the CTE school, the CTE center. So that's what we're asking for. And on top of that, we have a construction grant through the state that's 5.8 million that we're going to put towards that will give us the estimated amount to cover the CTE school. So that's where we are right now with that. And the architect right now is doing a feasibility study. And what that feasibility study will do will show up the numbers that they gave us preliminarily. So once we get that, we'll know exactly where we are. And we feel that we're in a good place with this because we're hoping that their projections are right in line with what they're saying. So if that's the case, if we get these funds back and we apply the grant that we have, then that's all we would need to be on our way to funding the CTE school. And that's important for us because, we don't generate dollars ourselves, as a school
Yeah.
division. We don't have a CIP. We depend on the city to provide that for us. And, right now we haven't been receiving a lot of funds as far as CTE. Really what we do at the end of the year, we identify projects and we ask them to revert those funds to cover those. So that's pretty much where we are and how we plan to fund it.
Yeah, and Dr. Bracy, and you mentioned about the shortage of teachers, and as you go forward with the CTE, and you mentioned about the $9 million going towards that, and then the other money funds going towards construction. Will that 9 million cover the extra teachers you would need for the CTE program? Because they probably will be specialty teachers in some of those programs, or would they be? Would they be specialty teachers different from the teachers that will be in the normal in the regular school curriculum?
Yes, some of them will, because with like when we're looking at like masonry, carpentry, those are skilled laborers, like with welding and so forth. So their certification areas are a little different. So we're hopeful that we can find a retiree um, from the shipyard that's still looking for something to do that we can entice to come and work with our students. I mean, of course they're retired, but maybe they're looking for something to keep them entertained. And that's what we're hoping for. Someone that has that actual workforce experience that can teach the students exactly what it is they need to know to go out there in the workplace. And let me say one other thing too, because I talked about the 9 million, but it's a total of 11.
Yeah,
And
okay.
you talked about the teacher shortage. So what we want to do with the other 2 million, we want to use that to help us with our retention. We want to reward those teachers that came back to Portsmouth because we lost a lot of teachers because of we have what we call a lot of compression in our teacher pay scale, our pay plan. And that's something that we're looking to address next year with the city council. But we're going to use that to provide a bonus to all those teachers and staff that return to us. So that 2 million, along with some grant funds that we have that we can put towards that, will help us do that. And that's something that we hope that we'll be able to attract teachers in the future, when they come back to us. But getting back to your original question, some of the teachers that we need, some of the programs we have will be relocating from the schools into the CTE center. So those teachers will come, with those programs. But we have some of our specialty programs that we're going to have, like with welding, and our auto mechanics, that's going to be on the DAC site, but that's going to be a separate building. So those two programs will be in that building. And those are two new programs that we're going to have to seek teachers for. But the other positions, like the patient tech nursing program, and right there, the location at the DAC Center, it's in the perfect location because we can partner with the hospital there. I mean, I know it's not Maryview anymore, Bon Secures, and we can have a partnership with them where our students can actually get firsthand experience working and interning and co-opting right there in a hospital setting. So that's going to be beneficial to us as well.
And I just wanted to piggyback on that. Good. In studying and putting this plan together, we realized also that it's a multi-pronged effort, because in the next 5 years, over half of our operation staff is going to be eligible for retirement. That's your electricians, your carpenters, all of them are going to be eligible for retirement in the next 5 years. And some of them already expressed interest to come back and teach if we were to have these programs offered in-house. But not only that, we need to find staffing to fill those positions. And if we can have students who are leaving with those credentials to be certified in those areas, they could be our future placeholders for that staff that we're going to need, that's going to be leaving us within the next 5 to 6 years. Not only on top of that, we have a desire to sign an MOU with the city once this is open, so that it can be used at night for adult ed, for the adults in our community to also get those credentials, so they can be certified for jobs that's coming open at the shipyard, at the port, in those other areas. So it's not just benefiting Portsmouth Public School students. This is going to benefit our community as a whole, to give us that workforce that we're missing right now, that's desperately needed.
Yeah, and one other question, watching the city council meeting the other night, some of the council members raised some questions. So I'm not going to get into that, because I think they're planning a meeting with you all and they want a presentation. And I think some of the questions they had, you can answer them there about, construction costs and what if it went over, and, will it be enough money to maintain. That was some of the questions to maintain the program. So I think that's going to be something that y'all are going to have to be prepared to answer when you do the presentation to them. Not unless you want to say something about it now.
Well, I think when anyone talks about construction costs, all we can do at this point is really sort of give an estimate, because with the supply chain issues and the labor costs, we don't know, and all of this is dependent upon how soon we get the money. I'll be positive and say that we're going to receive it. How soon we get it, and how soon we get this process started and getting the materials or whatever the architects and the contractors will need, because the longer we wait, prices could start going back up. So we have an estimate. We will have an estimate here soon, but that estimate is only going to be good for a small amount of time, because as you know, what it is today is not necessarily what it will be 2 months from now, or 6 months from now, or what it was 6 months prior. Those costs they continuously increase. But we're right now, I can say that we're looking at all of that. There are other grants that we have like with the ESSER funds that we get from the state through federal. We're going to identify some of those funds as well for some of the equipment needs that may be needed. We can get some of the equipment through the state, through some of the grants for CTE programs. So there are other avenues that we're going to exhaust as well. Yeah, but am I going to go on record to say that we will be able to cover everything and everything will be fine? No, I would never make that type of guarantee. That's why, as what Dr. Patillo said, I think it's important that we look at this as a partnership and not just something that the school division is trying to do. Because if we're doing this for our students, and our kids are gone. Our high school students, they leave at 2:15, 2:20. So that means the building is going to sit empty until 7 o'clock the next morning. So it's well worth looking at a partnership. And I think I heard someone in the community say that the city, I think, was trying to look at something similar to this as well. Well, here we are, with the perfect opportunity to move that forward. And as we don't care if anyone uses this facility after us, because it's a community effort. The more people that we can get trained and provide skills, that's only going to help Portsmouth overall itself. So I think it's going to be a worthwhile initiative, and I think it's going to be a great partnership. And I know we'll sit down and have some additional conversations, with the city, to make sure that they understand and that they share with some things with us that they would like to see. But we're willing. We're coming with an open mind and just hopeful that they see this as a positive step for Portsmouth.
And of course, the residuals will be invaluable down the road, what comes out of this. Colonel, I don't know, how are you doing? You feel comfortable asking a question or making a statement?
Yes. Could you list the programs that you're going to try to put out? And then that's first question. And will the programs be on a rotational basis, because you can't run all of them all at the same time? And that's the second question. And then go back to student selection and the numbers of students that you think you can put in through the program every year.
Okay. And looking at the programs that we're looking at, housing over there, we have our welding, masonry, carpentry, patient tech, plumbing, auto tech, electrical, and our CNA program. So those are the ones that we're looking for that will be there. Now, in terms of what the programs will look like, we look at it from student interest to see which students would be interested in participating and taking any of these courses. So it is possible for all of these courses to be going on simultaneously, because each program will have its own classroom or space or area, and we look at that based on the number of students that are actually interested in taking those courses. Now, it will probably be set up on a semester basis, and some of these courses may be double blocked. So let's say if you're a student at Norcom, then you may start your day at the CTE Center, and then after lunch you will go back to your home school. You'll go back to your home school to take your other courses, some of your your math, your English courses there, and that goes for any of the students, and it's based off what your interest is. If you want the certification in auto mechanics or welding, then that's the path that you would follow. And these are the programs that are going to be certified, that you'll have your proper certification when you come out, and you'll be job ready. And what was the last question, Colonel?
Numbers of students. But I also have a follow-up too. You talked about the CNA program. Are you also looking at an LPN program that you had, like Norcom had a few decades ago? Because my wife is a graduate of that LPN program. Now she's got a couple masters, nurse practitioner. So it's a stepping stone to something great.
Yes, and that is something that we're looking at. We've actually had some people talk to us about that now as well. So we're trying to look at the right partnerships that we can make to make that happen. We're bringing in the patient's tech program, which is also in the medical field. But with the CNA, that's sort of like the beginning phase into the nursing program, and then after that, then yes, that is something that we're looking at an expansion into. So yes.
Also, I'd consider the EMT program also within that, because it's not a hard program to put through, and that also helps for recruitment for like the fire department and the police department, because those kids got to know some EMT medical training too, and that's true. Not a lot of our kids, because they don't have the medical background when they go into like the fire department or be a cop. They don't have that piece because they've never seen a patient or never done CPR, never done those kind of skills that they could have gotten in an EMT program.
Right, and that is one of the other programs that I've heard about as well. You know, that program itself, where we're working with the city and the police department, fire and EMT, because I believe at one point it was a program. I mean, we were looking at it at one time to see what we could do. I know it was something with, I think, the police department, with the police academy. I think it was a age restriction there, but I know that I believe it's with I don't know if it's the sheriff's or the police department that does a program that works with students that are, and maybe the sheriff's department that works with students that are not of age, but they do give them some type of experiences along the way. So that is something that we've talked about in the past. But as we get this up and running, and then we look at the amount of space that we have, we're going to entertain, of course, adding additional programs. But one thing, we don't just put the programs in there because we think that that's what needs to happen. We have to make sure that we have student interest.
Right.
So we have surveys that we put out there to basically give us the idea of what programs are warranted, what programs are interested, and then we'll work with our team to put those programs into place.
Good point.
Okay, I'd like to welcome Comrade Shresbender. Welcome, Comrade. Thanks for joining us.
Evening, gentlemen.
Okay.
I just came from a nice shopping in Kroger and Frederick area, so I just tuned in now, and thank you for having me on. I want to listen.
Okay, thanks for joining us. I'll mention this because I'm sure somebody's going to ask that, and we can talk about some other things. The minority contracting hiring. And one thing I can say about the school board, y'all were way ahead of the curve when y'all, put in for the minority contracting study and implemented. And is it still in place? I know it's like every so many years it has to be renewed or revised. Is it still in place? And I'm sure y'all are really good at making sure minority contracting is offered out there for the small businesses.
Yes, we do. Anytime that there are any type of RFPs that go out and contracts, we have we have staff there that actually take a look at that and provide the documentation to the board to determine whether or not there were any minority vendors that submitted for the RFP, or were there not enough at that time. So that's something that we get with every contract that comes before the board to approve. So that is something that is still there. We do look for the minority businesses, as part of the MWBE program that we have. We have a great program, great staff that monitor that for us. So yeah, that's still live and well.
Okay, and I have a question for Cardell. I think, and this is going away from that, but at one time, I think language immersion, I don't know if that's the correct verbiage for that, teaching our young kids a foreign language early on, and I think it was going to be implemented in a few elementary schools at first. Is that in play now? Because I know one of the school board members, Ms. Thomas, was working hard on that.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you asked that. So we started the pilot program last school year, and that was in Brighton, and I believe was it Douglas Park, or just Brighton last year?
It was just Brighton last year.
And Brighton last year, and now we're in the process. We have a timeline of a greater implementation. So we are now selecting 5 additional schools to implement the program in, to start that, and we're hoping to be functional with at least 5 to 7 schools by the start of the September 2024 school year. But we're definitely working hard on that, and we had a presentation on that at our last retreat this past August, to put the timeline out and where we are within the timeline and how things are going so far. So it's definitely going to be a benefit to the school division. And imagine what kind of students we're going to be putting out of Portsmouth Public Schools in the next 5 years with the CTE program and language immersion starting at kindergarten.
Yeah, that's very important. I was excited about that when Ms. Thomas was on here talking about looking into that, and it's good to see that it's out there and it's in play. So what else is new going on? Well, this is sort of like the beginning of the year, so I guess not a whole lot is going on. But what were some of the goals that you all had coming into this new year? I know it's been challenging coming off that COVID thing and then kind of past that. But what kind of goals or what were you all looking to achieve going into this new year? Of course, accreditation is very important. You'd like to see 100% in the schools, but talk about that.
Yeah, well, I would say, our goal, we did a lot of revamping in our curriculum and instruction department. So the focus is definitely there in that area. We've increased the level of support to our building level administrators as well to help them to be able to monitor the schools more efficiently. And we're just excited about, number one, being back in school. I think we had one of our best openings that we've had in previous years. So we're excited about that. And just to get back in with the number of positions that we were able to get filled. I know we still have vacancies just like everyone else, but we're navigating through that, with different programs to help us with our staffing. And that's one of the things that I know that we're going to focus on this year. And I know this will probably be one of your questions, is what are we looking at in this year's budget? And I've made no secret about it. We lost quite a few teachers because they went to other divisions and where they could be placed appropriately on their pay scale, because we have a lot of compression in our pay plan. And that's one of the things that we are going to address this year with our school board. And as I share with them my estimate of needs budget. And with that, we're going to submit that to the city, because it's going to take some money for us to break up that compression in our salary scale, just like some of our neighbors have done in some of the surrounding districts. They've done that. So we've got to do that as well, because if not, we're going to continue to lose teachers to other divisions. I've heard this. I've heard the scenarios where teachers have gone to other divisions and have gained $7,000 to $12,000 a year just being placed appropriately on the scale. So that's something that we know we have to do. So I'm going to definitely be submitting that to the city. We've talked about this openly in our meetings at the school board. So I'm not springing this out here now for the first time. I talked about this at our back to school pep rally as one of the things that I was going to do. I thank those staff members that came back to us, because a lot of their colleagues and friends left and went other places, but they came back, and they came back because they had a love for their students. They had a love for the division. But, as we know with anything, love can only take you so far. You're going to have to put some teeth into it and give them what they really need and deserve. And that's to break that compression up and be able to place them appropriately on the scale so they can start seeing those step increases, not just the cost of living that the state gives us with the 5 to 7% every year. So that's what we're going to focus on.
If I may, I would like to ask how much of a greater benefit might it be if there's some additional public support outside of teachers, of people stumping at city council specifically for the idea of solving the compression issue? Do you think that might help out that goal?
I think if you keep hearing something, I think it will resonate with them. So we're going to be sharing this narrative, and the staff, they know that I'm going to be sharing it. So if others want to join in, hey, we welcome that, because it's needed. If other divisions are doing it, and we want to be better than where we are, and to achieve where they are and surpass that, we got to get the best qualified staff in here. When our teachers leave, that's a lot of quality years that have walked out of our doors, and we replace those in most cases with beginning teachers, provisional teachers, and it takes a while for them to really understand and find their niche in teaching. So anyone that can champion this cause with us, I think would only be helpful for us to get this point across and get the word out.
And I want to jump in and piggyback on that and be fair to say that our city council liaisons, they've heard this issue as well, and they agree that we need to address the issue. It's just how much would it cost to make that happen, and that's what the compression study will tell us. But it won't be a small task. It's going to be a Herculean effort. And I'll just give an example. In Fairfax, which is a much larger division than ours, it cost them around $80 million for compression. Ours won't be as large as that. That gives you an idea. If we're a third or a fifth of that size, what it would cost for us to possibly meet the compression needs in our area. And one of the hardest things for me to see, I visit schools a lot, and I was at a preschool last year, and to see a teacher cry to me because she was leaving and she didn't want to leave, but she has a family to take care of. And she was leaving to make an additional $12,000 in a neighboring district because she's going to be put on her correct pay scale. And you could see the hurt in her eyes and hear in her voice that she did not want to leave Portsmouth, because people who teach in Portsmouth, they're here because they want to be here and because they love to be here, because they could have jumped ship a long time ago for more money, but they stayed because they love this city and love this school division. But we have to meet them where their needs are, because the cost of milk and gas and everything else is continuing to rise, but their steps haven't increased. And that's where we need to make up that part and ensure they have what they need so they can take care of their families while they're providing the best teaching and the best education possible for our students.
Yeah, and when Dr. Patillo talks about the example that they gave it with Fairfax, it's not a one-time thing. So you're not saying here's $80 million for this 1 year. Most of this is done, it's phased in. They take 2 to 3 years to get you there, and then we're able to work with them to maintain it as we move forward, to make sure that each year they get those step increases. So it's a plan. It's a plan that's in place. And I know Norfolk just did it maybe a couple of years ago, over a 2-year time span, if I remember correctly. So that's something that we want to do, because we want to be able to retain the teachers that we have. And if we can fix this, we may even be able to bring some of those teachers that we lost back, because if we still have these grants available, we will still have the retention or the sign-in bonuses that will be available for those that have separated from Portsmouth to be able to come back. So we would love to welcome them back with a completely new salary scale and a sign-in bonus. I mean, that would be wonderful for us, because that expertise goes a long way when we start talking about trying to do something with the SOLs and accreditation.
I would say, nothing helps success like success. And I always wondered if it's enough information out there about all the good things that are happening in our school systems. I guess it's kind of hard to get the message out when the more popular thing is to show the negative. How much effort, or is there a department or something like that, or do you rely on the city to get the word out about those students? It's some amazing students in the school system that are doing some great things, and we can see that if we watch the school board meetings but not everybody comes to them, and because you always focus on the students before the meeting starts, something that they were doing. But not everybody sees that. And I think if more people saw it throughout the region, more people will want to be a part of that, even if they have to take a cut and pay. Well, that's hard to say. I mean, it's kind of hard to take a cut. But, I just think the word should get out about these students that we have that are doing great things and going on. I think I asked you, Cardell, one time, how much tracking was done about students that leave our school system and go on to higher education. Is there any efforts to get them back, to come back and talk about what they're doing? Just have special programs for that, just to encourage the students and for the people that are supporting the schools, like city council, and the students the parents that need to be involved a little bit more.
Yeah, actually, when you asked me that this summer, I actually went to our school board retreat in August and brought that up to our communications department. So they're working on that to develop a tracking system for students who do leave Portsmouth Public Schools, so we can keep track of what they're doing and possibly have them come back to share with our current students. But I will say to add to that we have, I think, one of the greatest communication directors clearly in the state, but I would say in the country. And we actually won our first national award this year for our communications department in Portsmouth Public Schools. So she does a great job telling our story, telling the success of our students and even our staff. We have staff who are winning national awards and statewide awards. And not only that, if you look at our Twitter pages and our Facebook pages, she's consistent with posting those stories on those sites, those platforms. And I'll say this, I brag every day I get with other people from other school divisions across the Commonwealth, because I say Portsmouth had more students to graduate with a high school diploma and associate's degree than any other school division in Hampton Roads. And that's something that we don't say enough. And that's to the credit of Dr. Bracy first for bringing the first college program to Portsmouth when he came here. And you have parents in Virginia Beach wondering, why can't my kid do this if they're doing it there in Portsmouth? So our children are accomplishing things in Portsmouth they're not doing anywhere else. And that's something that we should be proud of. You have students graduating with GPAs above 4.0 with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. So they're starting college as a junior in college. And that's amazing. And that story is not told enough of how great and phenomenal these students are, how intelligent they are. And one thing I would say about Portsmouth, that we never lacked in intelligence. We lacked in exposure. So our key now as a board is to make sure we expose our kids to as many things as possible and opportunities as possible to make sure they could be successful. But Dr. Bracy and his staff, they deserve 99% of the credit for that. They work hard day in, day out. Our teachers, but the board, we put together our goals and our vision, but they're the ones that carry it out. And I will say this, that we have a great superintendent, the greatest in the Commonwealth, and his staff as well. But we have to focus and stay focused on making sure that we meet the needs of that compression study and that our teachers have what they need, so we stop losing good teachers and start bringing some of our teachers back. That's a key for us to being successful in our school division.
Yeah, I definitely think you're going in the right direction, and you've been going in the right direction for years. And you just need that cooperation with the other governing body. And I think that has been improving. So look forward to some great things coming out of the Portsmouth school system.
I do have a question.
John?
You talked about this over and over again about a compression study. So what is the starting pay for a teacher coming out? And is there a difference in somebody's coming out and teaching one of the STEM programs, math, or one of the sciences versus one of the pure like English or liberal arts kind of thing? And then when you talk about the compression, is it in the middle where the pay is compressed before I make that shoot off, or is it in the beginning?
With that, here's the interesting part to that. Maybe 3-4 weeks ago, you saw where I don't know which news station it was. They mentioned starting pay in the area. And Portsmouth was number one with the starting pay. And that was at 53,500, if I'm not mistaken. So that is, we lead the area with starting teacher pay. So on top of that, I think you asked the compression piece. So that if we're looking at the scale, that 53.5 is from 0 to 4. So that's compressed there on our scale that we have. And then the remaining of the compression is at the beginning phase of it. So in order to fix that, everything else has to be pushed back within the middle and towards the end. But the issue is, and what we hear from our teachers, so I think the last step that was received was in 2016. I think it was January of 2016. So if you came on in the fall of 16, then you came in at the 0 level. And then from there up until current year, you're still at the same step. But what you have received are the cost of living increases that the state has given, but you haven't moved on that step. So that's where the bottlenecking is, and that's what we have to address. The 0 to 4, and then on top of that, nobody has moved. You're still there. If you taught 4 or 5 years ago, you're still at step 0, but you do get the cost of living increases. So that's why it's so important. And it doesn't matter if you're teaching a STEM area or liberal arts. Beginning teacher salary is just that. Now, if you have a master's or hours beyond a master's or a doctorate degree, we do provide additional funds. If you do have 18 hours beyond a master's, a doctoral degree, we will pay you an additional stipend for that.
Okay. I just wanted to make this statement too. I think it was good that I think, Cardell, you probably did that in your Facebook page post to give credit to past board members, because these things don't happen overnight. And you have different board members that, come off the board, but before they come off, they had contributed into what's going on now. So I think it was great that you gave credit to those former board members in getting to the point where you are now, because it just doesn't happen overnight. So that was a good move on your part. Thanks.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very appreciative, and I say it often that the best teaching I've had being on the school board were from my former board members, and sitting back and looking and observing and advocating alongside with them. Even before I got on the school board, just watching them, how they constantly advocated for the school division. And I say this all the time. We have a very diverse board as far as what we feel are our most important needs for the school division, but we work very well together. And for all of us, our number one concern is make sure that our children have what they need. We have different routes on how we think we should get there, but I believe they all show true leadership by putting personal wants aside and make sure we do what's best for the school division, and we follow Dr. Bracy's lead as far as what's best for the staff as well. So we work together as a team, and I just like to give all of them credit for that as well.
I always come up with these little scenarios, and imagine that you and Dr. Bracy were at a football game, at one of the football games at a stadium, and it was packed, maybe 5,000 people in there, but the game was delayed. So you had to fill that time, and you had an opportunity. All these parents are in the stands, and you had the opportunity to speak to those parents and try to convince them how important it is for them to be more involved, not only in the sports activities for the students, but the other extracurricular activities that they have, or just being involved in the school, being involved with the school board meetings, and just knowing what their children are doing in the schools and supporting the teachers. What would your your comments be to that vast audience of parents if you had that opportunity?
Well, that's interesting. I see Dr. Patillo delay so that I could go first. Um, I think one of the things that I would do is just first of all, if we're at an athletic event, I would thank them for coming out and showing support because our students need support in everything that they do. And I think the point that I would make is that, you know, it's good that we're all here at this athletic event, but I would just let them know that, hey, I would love for them to, and I'd be careful because I know we have some parents that just as much time as they spend at an athletic event, they're at any school activity that's going on. So I would just encourage everyone to continue to show support, not only in athletics, but all other areas as well. And I would make the connection that, you know, athletics is important, but it doesn't matter how skilled you are, you gotta have that academic piece in order to move forward and to move on to that next level. And that's also with extracurriculars as far as band and those activities as well, because you get scholarships in football, you get scholarships in band as well. So I want to make sure that they will support all efforts. And I want them to know that just as much as us as a division, we put in athletics, we put much more into our academic side of it as well. And just encourage them to come out to the schools during our open houses and continue to keep in contact with their students, teachers as well, because that communication is the key.
And I would also say, I did it what Dr. Bracy said, but I will also encourage more community partnership with the school division from citizens and from companies, from mentors, from tutors. It really still takes a village, I believe, to raise successful children. And we have so many opportunities that are available for parents and for community concerned citizens to come and partner with the school division to help fulfill not only daily obligations, but to help children choose pathways, career pathways. I think that's what parents are really needed. We are great for pushing athletics, but how active are we in helping our children to go through and navigate through the different pathways that are available to them and setting them on that correct pathway in elementary school, not in high school? One of the things that we're doing now with the First College program is we're not starting in high school. First College is now starting in elementary school at sixth grade. So you're going to see them at sixth grade open houses telling parents what's needed for your children to be on the correct pathway to finish with an associate's degree and a high school diploma at the same time. But parents have to be active and have to be present at PTA meetings, also along with sporting events to make sure those things happen for their children. We have a staff shortage. I found myself working as a cafeteria monitor last year, helping to clean the cafeteria after lunches at elementary school. Those are opportunities available for the community to come and partner as a volunteer. Bus monitors, other opportunities that we have as substitutes in classrooms. Please, most of you have at least 32 or 40 college credits. And that means you're able to come take the orientation and substitute in our schools. We still have a severe shortage with educators. I really just push community partnership, having them more involved. We need you involved. In politics now, they're trying to paint this picture that parents need to get more involved. The school system didn't want you involved. We've always wanted you involved. And we want you involved even more now. So please come, volunteer, sign up, take the orientation, do the background check, volunteer, mentor, tutor, whatever you substitute, whatever you can do to help our students be successful. We welcome that. We even did a volunteer open house last year. We may have had maybe about 40 people show up for that, but I was excited for that. So please, we're asking, we're begging for more partnership, not just from parents, but also from concerned community citizens that want to see our students successful.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And out of curiosity, how many students are in the school system?
We have probably around 13,500.
Okay, all right. So, and 40 showing up at an open house, but we need to do better. But anyway, gentlemen, I thank you, Dr. Patillo and Dr. Bracy. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate you doing this and taking the time out and talking about the proposed CTE program and other things that's going on in the school system. You've been very gracious with your time, and we really appreciate you. And like to mention, you two guys are members of two great fraternities, uh, Kappa Alpha Psi and Omega Psi Phi. So I had to mention that because you all do a lot of.
One great and one all right.
Say what?
One great and one all right.
Well, I'll let that be between you guys. But anyway, I think all the divine nine, and people should take their lead because I know they do a lot of things in the community. But before we leave, any last minute from our guest host? Any last words from our guest host?
I guess I'll end. Thank you for coming on the show this week, tonight, and thank you for everything you're doing. I do have one question when you talk about partnership and with the CTE program, and is there a grant for like Newport News Shipyard who's going to benefit for folks that are going to come out with, say, air AC vac programs? Are they going to like partnership with them, those kind of businesses, to give grant money back to help this startup of the program?
Yes, we're going to make our CTE coordinator is working on those partnerships right now as we speak, with the shipyard, with welding and so forth, and with the auto mechanics program, just making contact and relationships with some of the local dealerships that we have here, because when we have these kids come through these programs, they're going to be, certified technicians that will be able to go and basically get a job from them. So they will benefit from it. So I think they will see this as an opportunity, because they're just like us. They're trying to find skilled laborers as well. And just as we see a teacher shortage, they see a shortage as well. So I think this will go over well with any of these areas that we're going to have these students come out in. And one of the things that we do, and I'll share this in closing, is we talked about the importance and that we place on athletics, and then we have this huge signing day. And one of the things that we do here in Portsmouth is that we have a signing day for CTE students as well. We have the students come in along with their employers, and they sign, and they're there with their family and their new employer, and it's a great kickoff for them as well, because it's a big deal, and we want to make it a big deal. So with this program, if this can come into fruition, I can only imagine, we're going to have to, it'll be a large amount of students and families that will be a part of this, because as these students come out with these certifications, we'll have standing room only from the employees, the students, and the families to be there. It's a big deal, and we're going to make it an even bigger deal in doing so.
Perfect.
Conrad?
I guess my last question tonight is I want to thank you guys for coming on. I'm interested in learning more about, just Portsmouth Public Schools in general. I've only been living in Portsmouth for about a year and a half now. I do know my wife works in Newport News, officially under the banner of Newport News City Public Schools, under a division that helps career management for people in the community in the peninsula. And I'm curious because I think that is a program that is seemingly singular to that city. And I'm curious if ideas like that are germinating in Portsmouth, of something in the banner of helping. I know the idea is starting with the students, but people who are also adults now, it could use career management. Does public schools in Portsmouth have a role in that in the future or currently?
I think we have a small footprint in that now, but with this program, there are going to be additional positions that we don't have that will be built into this budget. because we're going to have to have a greater outreach, sort of like a center where we help these students navigate job placement, sort of like what they have in the university with the placement centers. We're going to have someone that's going to work carefully with them to understand what it will mean transitioning into the workforce. We have some entrepreneurship classes that teach students that, but we're going to have that support for them as well. That someone that can go out and take those initial steps for them to bring them the needed information. If you're interested in a particular area, here's what you need to know, here's what you need to do, so that we can have them ready when they go out to the workforce to understand exactly what it is. So some of that is coming. I haven't seen the full playbook in terms of all the recommendations that we're going to need. Right now, my focus has been working with our CFO to look at the potential funds that it will take to get this going, while my curriculum instruction people are working on what you just mentioned. So once we pull everything together, I'm sure we will have more than enough support for our students as we get into this program, because as I mentioned, we have some of the programs now, but when we centralize it, it's going to be more robust, because we're going to be able to serve more students in a larger facility.
Great, thank you, and again, pleasure to speak with the two doctors tonight.
We thank you, and thank you for having us. We always love to tell the story of Portsmouth, because it's something that's near and dear to both of us.
Well, thanks again, and make sure all the students graduating next year will sign up at Virginia Union University.
The hold the green and gold. That's what.
Not everybody comes out of there preachers. Is that right, Cardell?
Not everybody. A lot of them,
but some, a good significant amount. Thanks again, gentlemen. We appreciate it, and you all have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. All right. Good night.